future. Anyway, we want to go live on YouTube. So here we go. Oh, and of course I got to wear my lucky necklace. Doop, 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 boop, boop, boop. All right, welcome everybody to day number 4. We're going to be talking about the experience of clients as they're inside of a vagus nerve stimulation program. So this is really aimed at practitioners or people who are just generally interested in the whole world of vagus nerve stimulation from a non-specifically just a device perspective, but people who want to understand a little bit more about I don't know, like what could there be more than just ear clips? What if there could be more to your vagus nerve experience than just strapping electricity into your ear? That's a big question that I want to speak to for sure. So welcome. But before we start, we're going to start off with our simultaneous squeeze. So what that is a big huff and puff of air. You're going to take it deep into your lungs. You're going to take an extra sip of air at the very top, and then you're going to hold that air in your lungs, and then you're going to squeeze like you're blowing out into a balloon, but you're not going to let any of that air escape, and you're going to hold that down for about 5 full seconds, okay? That's the process. Pretty simple. Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. Take a sip at the top. Hold and squeeze. And slowly exhale out of your mouth. There you go. And you can always breathe out of your mouth. I love that feeling. It's so good. How lucky are we that just through breathing we can feel pretty darn good? It's pretty simple. So remember, it's all about that huge deep breath of air in, holding it, squeezing it. If you're unfamiliar look, if you don't get the effect, I might recommend that you actually practice by blowing out of a straw, something that can restrict your breath so you can get a sense of what muscles you have to engage to be able to tightly blow air out of your mouth in that way, in that rate, or even to hold it in. Maybe get a balloon, breathe into a balloon. Balloons can be a great training tool for breathing muscles, or a diaphragm breather too. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Awesome. So for those wondering why there are movie titles here in the chat, we were doing a quick poll about which movie are you going to see, as in Oppenheimer or Barbie. The clear winner was neither, and it turns out to be The Sound of Freedom, which is a great anti-child trafficking movie, which I highly recommend everybody go see if they have the appetite for something like that. It's a very important video, important movie, important topic of our age. I actually, funny enough, I was at the Tony Robbins event in 2016 when Tony Robbins first made his very first investment in Operation Underground Railroad, run by Tim Ballard, the guy who produced the movie Sound of Freedom. I was literally sitting in that same room when a woman said, my bucket list, the thing I want to save money up for, is to donate money to Operation Underground Railroad to save children. And this is back in 2016. So this is, again, 7 years later that we're seeing. Imagine that. I mean, that's 7 years ago, and now we're seeing this huge movie, Sound of Freedom, which crushed Indiana Jones, which was such a shitty movie, which is good riddance for Disney. But anyway, all right, well, we're not going to get onto movies too much, but I did go to school, and I did spend a lot of time in the film department. So my apologies if you're like, this sucks. No, I like movies. Okay. So I'm going to go see Oppenheimer if I can today. As soon as this video is over, I'm rushing out to get the car and to go see Oppenheimer if I can go see it. All right, so here is the topic of today. So day number 4, what typically are you going to see clients experience when they're going through a 4-month vagus nerve stimulation experience? What is that like? I guess I'm using experience twice in that sentence. But just to do, super quick review of days 1, 2, and 3. Day 1, we talked about who's out there, that there are people out there actively searching for solutions for their vagus nerve. So there's a clear-cut market demand. So if you're a practitioner and you're like, gosh, I don't know. Is this vagus nerve thing like the right way to go? Is there something better? Honestly, I don't think that there are much better options for treatment that are available right now for practitioners than vagus nerve related stuff. It is truly incredible, and you'll see a lot of the lovely friends here in the chat as well can absolutely speak to that. You don't have to. I'm just saying. I'll tell you factually. Is that a lot of people in this Facebook group have 24,000 members of the Facebook group all tend to agree. What is it? 9 out of 10 doctors agree that vagus nerve stimulation is pretty darn awesome, if for whatever that's worth. So day number 1 was just, are there people out there actively looking for solutions for their health? The answer is yes, and it's up to you to then go to them. And what we talked about in day 2 is the whole concept of how could you uniquely help someone with your set of skills? So if you're a practitioner who has a specialization in nutrition, you might think, how could I make my specialization with nutrition be vagus nerve inclusive? So how could you do a vagus nerve nutrition type of coaching course in some way? And how would you design that? And also, I made the recommendation as well, is that if you are going to incorporate anything like vagus nerve centric, that it wouldn't be that difficult to include a vagus nerve stimulation device in your program. People really, really do desire and want and need, I believe, in the case of a vagus nerve, some physical device that they can use to stimulate their vagus nerve. And so we made some recommendations on day 2 as to what those kinds of things would look like between either ultrasound or electrical stimulation. Day 3, we talked about attraction and enrollment. How do you, once you've decided, like, I'm doing this, this is the way it's designed, how do you go out into the marketplace on social media, basically, and talk about the vagus nerve? How do you get people to know, like, hey, raise your hand if you're interested in learning more about the vagus nerve from my unique perspective? So that's basically what we talked about on day 3. And then day 4 is what to expect once you have people who've enrolled in a program, right? That's kind of the next step. This is a big one. You put in all that work, you got to kind of know, like, what are the clients going to experience once they're in the program? And so we're going to talk about a couple of the key aspects to make sure your clients have the best experience possible. And I think the first one, I'd say the biggest and first most important thing about guaranteeing a really good, solid experience inside of a program is good communication. I think good communication with them and making sure, because basically the coaching starts on that 60-minute phone call that you have with a client. It's like, hey, so great. So here's what my program is. Here's how much it's going to cost. Here's how to sign up. And here's what you're going to get in return. And they say, great, let's do it. And then on that call, communication is essential. So if you're sending out a device to someone, the device, you need to tell them, okay, you're going to receive the device in 2, 3, 4 days from now. You're going to get a tracking code. You're going to get this. You're going to schedule an onboarding call. I would typically recommend that you schedule your onboarding call like literally on the end of the sales call if possible. Because given the way that you can get VNS devices shipped out, it's very possible for you to know pretty accurately when that will arrive at that person's house so that they can start using it. So I would schedule an onboarding call for about 45 minutes, an hour, something like that, to coordinate with the arrival of that patient's or that client's VNS device so that they can start using that immediately and they have something in hand. Again, the type of practitioner course design that I'm recommending is that everybody does get their own VNS device. I think it's a huge revolution in terms of how to work with clients if they have something physically in their hand that they can use. I find that model works really well. So schedule your onboarding call ASAP. Make sure that they have tracking for their device. That's really important. Then you get to the onboarding call. Now on the onboarding call, you're going to basically explain to them, again, the process of which they're going to proceed in the program. You're going to make sure that they were able to successfully use their VNS device. Make sure you've answered any questions. I would also recommend that you set up some kind of a like a coaching platform somewhere where there's course videos explaining here's where your vagus nerve is, here's how to start eating right, here's how to incorporate vagus nerve stimulation. You should have some video that they get sent to watch that teaches them exactly, like, here's how you're going to utilize the technology. So there should be some videos, there should be some communication. There's multiple elements of the client experience that make it a success. I found that recording videos on your computer and uploading them to YouTube, for instance, is a great option for people to get immediate access to content to watch as soon as they sign up for your course. So you have the onboarding call. On the onboarding call, you're going to ask some, clarifying questions, set expectations, encourage their participation in all of your offerings, whatever that may be. Encourage them to, I think a big part of the onboarding call is to really ensure for them that you're going to be their quarterback, that you're going to be there to remind them at week 2 or week 4 or week 8 to not just be using the VNS device, but also to, in my cases, strengthen your neck. Make sure you look at some of the supplementation that you should be taking. Maybe try out some of the Hour of Power as well, some of the mindset stuff. Because I think a good program, in my opinion, a good vagus nerve program should first and foremost include a vagus nerve stimulation device. That's the first one. Second, nutritional advice or support. Third, any kind of exercise, getting them to move their body. I focus on the neck primarily. And then fourth is mindset support. And that could be either through, group participation or through something that they can listen to privately at home that is encouraging and inspiring. So the onboarding call is to clarify all of those things out for them, okay? Then the magical thing at the end of the onboarding call is then I love what I find the biggest change that I made recently that has really helped with setting really solid expectations with clients and making sure that communication doesn't fall through the cracks is that every time I have a call with them, I'm making sure that I know when we're going to talk next and that it is scheduled. Okay. So at the end of onboarding call, I schedule all 4 months of their program. So I typically, the design that I have for clients is I meet with a client once per month. I meet with the client literally the day after they receive their VNS device. So I want them to have used their VNS device once or twice before I actually got the call with them. Because, I will have had a call with them just 4 days prior when they signed up, and I'll be able to tell them a lot of stuff on that call. I want them to use the VNS 1 or 2 nights before our onboarding call. And then from the onboarding call, the next week, I schedule their first monthly call. And then I do every 30 days, I schedule a call with them. And I just keep that ongoing. So that's a big way to ensure that you have consistent communication with a client throughout their full 4-month journey and potentially on. Usually at the end of the 4 months, I'll say, hey, you're obviously in our small like group of, I would call them inner circle members. Let's schedule out another 4 months. I oftentimes will continue to give more months out to clients after their first 4 months. We do have like an inner circle subscription as well, which is like $33 per month. So the longer you're in coaching, the cheaper it gets overall. So the longer you'll stay in the program, the cheaper it averages out from month to month. So it makes more sense for someone to actually be in a program for sign up for the 4 months, stick around for 6, stick around for 8. You're going to actually have cost averaged out your program to be very competitive from a month-to-month basis. So I kind of like that model. That's kind of what I follow a little bit. And for those who want to learn more about how that works specifically, I do have that written up here at vegushub.com/phase1. And so you can learn more specifically about how that's all designed and kind of implemented. So you can go read that for yourself if you would like. So the experience the experience of your clients is largely going to be initially controlled by you. You are going to be the one who sets the pace. You're going to say, you're going to use the VNS device here at this time, at this hour. Here's what you're going to do. So that's kind of setting up the initial stuff. Now, ongoing coaching, when you meet with them after 1 week with VNS or after 4 weeks with VNS, this is going to come the time where your specialty as a coach is really going to need to shine through. Okay? It's very important. There's always going to be something non-vagus nerve related that you're going to need to coach them on in some way. And this is where I think the term coaching really needs, I don't know if it needs it, but it could be defined better. Coaching, the way I see it, is simply helping someone get from point A to point B in the shortest time possible, in the safest way possible, especially when it comes to health. Because shifts in your health can't just be upon the condition of speed. It can't be just, I want to get from here to there in the shortest time possible, because that's like goal-based thinking. It's not systems-based thinking. And we all know, raise your hand if you're like, yeah, there was a time where I tried to cheat my health and take a shortcut, maybe in weight loss or whatever, and it had disastrous consequences, right? We've all tried to lose the 5 pounds quickly on some kind of a nasty celery, pickle juice, lemon squeeze, kale, ginger concoction that made us feel like we wanted to die, so we could quickly lose the weight. And we know that speed isn't always healthy, and especially if you're running a health program, speed can't be the number one criteria of getting someone from point A to point B. So coaching is going to require, this is really where practitioners who have tangible experience in health and healthcare are really desirable. It's very desired that you have some existing experience with, okay, so this client is getting better sleep because of the VNS, but there are other things going on in their health that need to be addressed, like digestion. So I'm oftentimes in my coaching calls needing to explore different routes than just increase more stimulation. I don't say that often just for the sake of fixing a problem, you know? So for instance, if someone, let's see, what's a common rebound situation? I would say in a case of the vagus nerve, one area that at about 2 months you might see is someone's digestion swings back and forth between really good digestion with a few days of constipation potentially, because they are being asked to modify some of their supplements to choline-centric supplementation. They're stimulating their vagus nerve. They're probably exercising more, maybe not drinking enough water to keep up with it, losing some salts. So there are some things that change. So when you encourage behavioral change in a client, you have to expect that's going to cause some other changes in lifestyle. And those changes in lifestyle, they might not be prepared for. So you need to be attentive to some of the modifications and some of the consequences of more exercise in that person's life. If they're going to be exercising more, they need to be drinking more water, for instance, and they might not have the habit of drinking more water while doing more exercise. So that would be like, okay, that's kind of common sense, but I don't think everybody walking around has that kind of thinking process or that rational thinking cycle to say, how would I fix that? What would I recommend in that case? You could say something like, well, I think you're dehydrated. That's probably why that's happening. That's why your mouth is so dry and your muscles are sore. You should drink more water. And that's definitely the right thing to say. However, the better you get as a coach, you might start thinking in terms of how do I make what I'm saying stick better? So in my case, if it were a client who wasn't drinking enough water, I would say, I want you to go purchase a large, bigger bottle with the lines of the time of the day written across it so that you can fill it up to the top in the morning and drink it according to the times listed on that bottle. Some people carry a tiny little glass around with them, and they'll sip on that. That can work. But I find that if you have someone that has a big jug of water, they're going to feel like they can drink a lot more water in the day. So there's something about physically in their environment is understanding how their environment affects their habits and their behavior. So that's kind of a specialty in coaching, is making recommendations that stick. Because typically a coaching session that happens from month to month may only be about 25 minutes. That's about all you really need in that period of time to get good results with someone. As long as they're stimulating their vagus nerve, they are in a really good shape. So you don't need to do a whole bunch of heavy lifting if they are using the technology. So overall, their experience in the first 4 months of coaching is going to be pretty straightforward. The main thing you need to make sure they're doing is consistently using their vagus nerve stimulation technology. I'd say core principles in the first 2 weeks is not to overload them with a bunch of stuff, because if you give them things that are complicated in the first 2 weeks, you risk them muddling up the process a little bit. So in the very first week, my main thing is, let's just have you focus on using the vagus nerve stimulation technology and getting consistent at that, and trying to work out any potential kinks that might be preventing you from using it consistently, right? Maybe it means that you need to put the VNS device next to your bed so that you use it right before bed. That's a really important aspect of good habitual health, right? Anything that's consistent in health is almost always going to win out in the end versus big, heroic, one-time health pursuits, okay? And, for instance, I have a client who works with me right now, but we communicated with each other back in 2022, like early April 2022, about that time. And this young man, let's say young man, he's a little bit older than I am, but I'll still call him a young man. He came from Twitter, so I don't really take clients from Twitter, just because I kind of want to know people a little bit better. I want to know them a little bit more, and I want to make sure they're a good fit. So filtering out people is really important. But I made a recommendation for him to go to a clinic in Los Angeles that does ultrasound stimulation of the brain. They do deep focused ultrasound in an MRI machine. And it was my recommendation based on the symptoms that he was giving me, that was the treatment that he should pursue. And so fortunately enough, he did actually pursue this. And so he did go to this clinic near UCLA for brain stimulation with ultrasound, which is some of the people that I know from my work in ultrasound. So I could make a very solid recommendation in that case. He did. And he told me later that after that single treatment that he did with ultrasound at that clinic in LA, that he had 6 months of relief from some pretty debilitating symptoms that happened after he quit benzodiazepines. So I was like, that's awesome. But they weren't willing to continue to do the treatment every 6 months with him. And I believe that, it's kind of a limited time trial window that they were doing this treatment. So he couldn't go back. And so I believe truly that when it comes to vagus nerve stimulation, rather than looking for some one-time heroic trip to Puerto Rico to get stem cells, you should find something that's closer to home that you can do consistently on a rather daily basis that has concrete health benefits. And vagus nerve stimulation absolutely falls in that category. Ultrasound especially falls in that category. Something that you do daily with ultrasound, I absolutely know for a fact, because I've had the option to do both. I have some of those people in LA are my friends. So if I called them up, I said, hey, I want to do the full meal deal treatment with ultrasound. I could get in there next week if I wanted to. But the kinds of shifts that happen in that one-time treatment aren't going to even come close to what I feel I can get with an at-home treatment plan that I can do every day, which I do ultrasound every single day. And I mean, it makes my mornings fantastic. I have this protocol that I'm working on right now that we are giving out to some clients. So hopefully those who are watching or listening who are clients, don't let me forget on our next monthly call to give you the indications of this protocol. It's pretty cool. But basically it's combining the different phase devices. So we use phase 2, phase 1, and phase 3 in that order. Strongest ultrasound, medium intensity ultrasound, and then lowest intensity ultrasound, but the one that goes in your ear, the phase 3 device. If you stack them in that order, it's an incredible way to start your day. So there are generally some very fun things you can do with the right VNS technology. So if you are a practitioner, highly, highly, highly recommend that you do consider actually adding in, some form of vagus nerve stimulation into your care. I think it's actually world-class technology that's available to you today commercially. So I see no compelling reason as a practitioner to not utilize vagus nerve stimulation in your care. If you are a practitioner right now with clients and they're not getting the kind of results that you ideally know you could get, sometimes it could just be due to their vagus nerve not functioning properly. And if you could just add in that VNS right in there, right into that sweet spot with them, you're going to get the kinds of results that they were promised, like on a really solid level. I would love to see more coaches out there incorporating vagus nerve stimulation and, hardcore nutrition, because I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a certified nutritionist. So I think there's probably some magical stuff you can do with just nutritional coaching with a client if you really have that as a deep, deep level of specialization. But I would love to see what the best nutritionist on the planet could accomplish with their clients if they also did nutrition coaching and incorporated vagus nerve stimulation technology. The combination of the two, boom. I mean, world-changing type of practitioner work. I'm just very excited about the potential, the combination of more practitioners adding VNS into their care. So what else? I would say just so I have a sense of what we're going to talk about tomorrow too. Tomorrow I want to talk about what happens at the end of the program. So what happens on, let's call it graduation and ascension. Okay. So tomorrow's topic is going to be one that you definitely want to and need to watch. The biggest reason is because in the way that I'm intending to train practitioners in terms of how they provide coaching is that you're going to switch from maybe a traditional charging by the hour type of service to here's a 4-month package deal that you're going to go through as a patient and get results from point A to point B from month 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then once they're finished, then what do you do? Because as a practitioner, the incentives are not there if you're charging hourly, which I think is a big problem. So if you're a practitioner who charges hourly, and just if you're a patient who has a practitioner that you're paying hourly, consider this. As soon as you get better, that money train is over for them. So how incentivized are they really to make you feel better? Not a lot. Not a lot. They're not very incentivized at all, actually. So they might drip good, effective treatments to you, but their incentive is not to get you to be fixed. The thing that we cover in tomorrow's video is the concept of once the 4 months are up, what happens next? And where do they go? And what can they do? And so you have a continuity program and an ascension program. You should give them something to go up to at the next level. If they're truly blown away and just ecstatic with the kinds of results that they got in the phase 1 program, then you should say, great, well, if you loved that, I have something even better for you at phase 2 or in phase 3. And so we already have in my own program, we have Ascension between phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And there's different tiers that you can go to, and they're all amazing. And just so you guys know, next week, we're going to do another 5-day campaign that's just talking about phase 3 specifically. So next week is going to be a phase 3 intensive. We're going to talk about all the topics we cover. We're going to talk about the technology of in-ear vagus nerve stimulation and what that looks like and feels like and everything about it. That's going to be a very big, important event because it will be the first of its kind where we're even more publicly getting out the word about in-ear vagus nerve stimulation with ultrasound and the technology that we've developed to make that possible. So anyway, so day 5 tomorrow, graduation and ascension, another really important piece of the puzzle to continue your work as a practitioner and safely switch out of that charging hourly format that really just doesn't work. You shouldn't be charging hourly as a practitioner. I think you should charge for a package deal, get them the results in the time that you promised, and if they're happy with it, then give them the option to ascend to an even higher tier of coaching with a whole different ballgame. You know, you should be pushing yourself. Like there's a difference between freshman year and sophomore year and junior year and senior year of college. Each level isn't just more of the same. It's a whole different ballpark of training, of different specialization, of different skill building. And that's what should be offered in there. Because if you can help someone in phase 1, you could probably help them with a phase 2 stage of their health. So you should know naturally what comes next after phase 1, after phase 2, and after phase 3. So yeah, very cool. So let me open the floor. Are there any questions about anything that I talked about today in terms of the client experience? You know, again, I can't fill in the gaps for everyone watching because there's so many different kinds of practitioners. There's so many different types of conditions. I can't cover every single different type of treatment option for every type of condition today. But what I can give you are the higher level overviews of how to design the touch points with the clients so that you can accurately figure out and diagnose and fix and find solutions for and work through any problems that a client might encounter. And I find that monthly, and this is even better than, think of it like this. Most doctors, you can't even meet with them for every 2, 3, or 4 months, if at all. And that's even like a 15-minute call. So I think that if you can design a program where you can meet with clients proactively and say, we're going to meet every 30 days, and you're going to know that that's on the agenda, and you can continue to schedule that for as long as needed, and that will never end. And I'm never going to say, oh, we're not taking clients for another 6 months. I think that's a big value add. I think that is worth something to the peace of mind of a client. I personally value that. I had a chiropractor where I live who I fired because they initially said, oh, we're going to be able to see you every month for the next 4 months. And so I scheduled all 4 months out. It was great, good service. It was actually so I could get massage and not chiropractic care because I don't really like getting my neck cracked or anything like that. It was like mandatory. She was like, the chiropractic lady owned the building and she had a massage therapist working in there. So I had to kind of like go through the motions of, oh yeah, definitely need chiropractic, but I really wanted the massage therapy. So I scheduled all 4 months. It came to my last one 4 months later. And they said, great, I'd love to schedule my next 4 months. And they said, ooh, we can't see you for another 7 months. So do you want to schedule for 7 months out? And I was like, what the hell? Like, you couldn't have, what happened here? Like, I didn't sign up for this so I could do 4 months of massage and then do no massage for 7 months. Clearly, somebody had come in and a couple of clients had come in and scheduled in all that time, and they had no ability to make time for me. That felt really bad. That felt really, 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 really bad. And I was arguably pretty upset. But I still scheduled the 7 calls. And then even by the time the 7 months came, that massage therapist had less time And so she had to cancel all those massage sessions with me. So it was a big letdown. So again, this is from a client perspective, finding programs where it's a package deal where you're guaranteed time with a practitioner, I think in a health setting is pretty darn valuable. That they're going to make that time specifically committed to you, and that you can schedule those out months in advance, I think is really smart. So that's my experience here. But yeah, as a practitioner, you get to decide the client role that they play and the ride that they go on, and you, for a large part, you're the one who is setting the expectation of experience. You're the one who's doing that. It's not up to the client to determine the experience. That's totally on the shoulders and the leadership of the practitioner. So don't use any other excuse for it. You have to be proactive here. And so finally is to say that you should schedule all of your client calls from each call to each call. So never send, unless it's an emergency check-in, which you can do. I have times where I say, hey, it sounds like you need some help like in the next couple of days or in the next week. Schedule an intermediate call. Here's my link for that. But all the big major on the calendar calls are scheduled out way proactively ahead of time. I would recommend that. It's just definitely changes the relationship in a really positive way. So anyway, any questions about that? I do want to run a last poll. Maybe, I don't know. You guys are all the same since we got here, but I wanted to ask I thought the video, the movie poll at the beginning of this was really funny. So I really appreciate you all for sharing that. But yeah, we're going to end it here on YouTube. So thanks YouTube for watching. Thanks, like, comment, and subscribe and all that fun stuff if you like keeping these videos ad free, where I'm not pushing any, Raycon earbuds or doing any sponsored segments. So if you appreciate that, let me know with a like. All right. Thanks, YouTube. And